The automobile is something we all take for granted today, but back in 1903 it was a very new thing. Henry Ford was looking for investors for his new invention, so he asked his attorney, Horace Rackham, if he wanted to invest in this project. Horace turned to his financial advisor, the president of the bank, who advised him, "Don't do it. The horse will always be around. The car is just a passing trend. Next year you won't see even one on the streets." Luckily, Horace did not take the advice, but instead bought $5,000 worth of stock in this new invention called the automobile. That investment of $5,000 he later sold for $12.5 million. It was a good investment. Jesus tells a story about investing. A rich man went away on a trip and gave some money to one servant, some to another, and some to a third. Each received something different, but each was expected to do something with it. The first two doubled the money, while the third dug a hole and buried it. He didn't do anything with it, but didn't lose any of it either. He just kept it the way it was. When the master came back, he was delighted at the first one, delighted at the second one, and very angry at the third one. Now maybe that makes no sense to us. The third one was being safer. He was the one who was making sure nothing happened to the master's money. He didn't want to take any risks. But the master wanted him to take risks. I must admit, I would have been like the third guy. When I go to Vegas, I pass by the slot machines and tables, and I feel like a great winner if I can come home with the exact amount of money I left home with. Well, except when it comes to the lottery. When I hold one of those tickets in my hand, I just know that one of these times this piece of paper is going to be my ticket to early retirement. How do we invest? Jesus was not talking here about money. This has nothing to do with money. This has to do with the real treasures that each of us has received from God. Just as in the story, each of us has received a unique treasure, different from that of everyone else. I have talents that you don't have, and you have plenty of talents I could never dream of. When the great Mozart was a child, his father lay deathly ill one day, so everyone in the household was forbidden to go to the piano or make any noise. The poor boy was used to playing and composing at the piano at every spare moment. So he did the next best thing. He sat down at the table with pen and paper and composed his first symphony for complete orchestra without any instrument to work with. He was 8 years old. Now, I don't have any talent like that. Each of us has different gifts and a different personality, but each of us is expected to develop that treasure in our own life. The one who buried the treasure did it out of fear. How often does fear keep us from doing something in life? Fear is what keeps us from realizing the fullness of our personality, our gifts, our talents, keeps us from being the people we were meant to be. Of all the gifts we have, the greatest is the ability to love, and each of us has it in a unique way. That is our greatest treasure from God. Once a lady came to me with a big problem. She felt unable to love. She had no friends and she didn't want any. I listened to her story. As a young girl, she wanted with all her heart to serve God as a sister. But her parents, being of a different mindset and a different culture, forbade her to enter the convent. They insisted she marry a man and give them grandchildren. She gave in. The marriage, of course, was a disaster. She produced a couple of children and tried her best to be a good mother, but this was not who she was, not her calling, and she knew it. She still went through all the motions, but her heart was empty. It's a sad thing, and a very common one, to feel unable to love in the way we know we were called to love. I remember a man with a similar problem. "I cannot love," he said. "It hurts too much." He was a very sensitive man, someone obviously capable of very great love. When I asked why, he said, "Father, as the only unmarried, childless one in my family, it was I who spent years taking care of my sick father. And then it was I who spent months nursing my dying mother. Then came the AIDS plague, and I nursed all of my friends, every last one of them, till the end. Everyone who meant something to me died. I can't put my heart out there again and experience that pain all over again. I have loved, but I will not love again. It's too painful." This, too, is a very common problem. Love is a painful thing. How many of us are afraid to love because we have had our heart broken or wounded? All of us are a little afraid to love. Would you like to go through life without your heart ever breaking? Would you like to go through life without any hurt feelings? Would you like to go through life without ever being wounded? Then you'd better guard your heart very carefully. Bury it in a hole like the third servant, and bury it deep. Don't give your heart to anyone, and certainly don't wear your heart on your sleeve. The Christ comes along and tells us it is worth the risk. It is worth the hurt. It's worth all the pain and heartache and heartbrokenness that it brings. It's even worth the grief we experience in mourning. Love is worth everything. Let us dare to love. That third servant wasn't rejected because of anything he did. He was rejected because of what he did not do. The same goes for the other story of the sheep and the goats. Those goats weren't rejected because of any bad thing they did. They were rejected because of what they could have done and did not do. They were given treasures from God and they did not put them to use. They were given the opportunity to love in a unique and marvelous way, and they were afraid too. They were given the opportunity to serve God's people, the poor, the sick, the lonely, and they did nothing. They were afraid to love. What a remarkable gift! What a remarkable treasure we have each been given. Our own personality, our own gifts, our own talents, our own unique ability to love. How are we going to invest that treasure? Will we develop it and allow it to develop us? Will we be able to give back to God twice or 3 times or 100 times the treasure we have received? Or will we too take the treasure from God, bury it in a hole, to give back to God untouched? Let us not be afraid to become the person we could be. Let us not be afraid to love.